Guys, we are back at the Magic Space, and today we're gonna introduce to you the Fire Walk with our guy Peter Reyes from South America and America. Let's go, Peter.
Hey, thanks, Max. I love the introduction. The chat out there, it fits because the firewall can be really scary to people. So it's like, oh, here it comes, the fire. You're walking on coals, that whole feeling. But yeah, I'm super excited to share with people. I know a lot of people are excited to have the opportunity to walk on coals. Um, yeah, it's a good time.
Great. So, how many how many toes have the people already lost?
I mean, there's definitely there's the risk of burning your feet. There's always risk. If there's no risk, then it's not real, and that's with any of these practices that we're sharing, that there has to be a true belief that there's a risk involved. um, Typically no one's going to burn their feet. You might get what we like to call just a little kiss. The fire will give you this nice little kiss, and maybe you have a tiny blister. And I always tell participants, I'm like, is a little blister worth it to walk over coals? And the answer is yes, of course. What's a little blister? That's not going to bug you. The other thing I always like to say about getting burned on the fire is if you do get one of those little kisses at the bottom of your feet, um, I tell people to look at a reflexology chart. Where did the fire burn you? And you find those little charts on your feet to, different nerve endings on your feet are connected to your adrenals, to your liver, to your heart, and all that. And oftentimes with students, um, it's a point of interest. The place where they got burned is relevant to something going on in their life. Like their adrenals burned in there, and they've been overworking themselves. They've been really stressed out. And so oftentimes, and you guys know this, that the elements, the fire, the cold, it all can illuminate things that we already knew, or maybe remind us of something that we already knew. Um, and then, yeah, but no one will get burnt
I
Wow.
badly.
have never tried it before, and I'm looking so much forward to trying it. But I am also like, my brain is nervous because I do have faith, and especially you guiding me. But I simply cannot wrap my head around how is it possible to walk on that hot cold and not be burned.
Yeah, and I think that's the power of it, is approaching fear and challenging what we believe. Also, I think, and you guys know this, with the fire, there's this deep connection. There's this really strong connection. We've evolved with fire, right? So we have on the one hand this fascination. We've all sat around a campfire, and just stared into the flames. We're almost obsessed with it. And then at the same time, we're deeply afraid of it. It's cooked our food, it's kept us warm, and on the other side, it's burned down the village and caused a bunch of pain. So we have this love-hate relationship with it, and we want to get close to it, but not too close. So that's part of the fear aspect, and also why we want to do it. There's a lot of theories as to why we can walk on coals and things like that. People talk about the transfer of heat and the skin on your feet and all this other stuff. Um, but one of the times when that was challenged for me, because the logical mind likes, okay, how do we do this? What's the scientific answer? Um, at my training, my instructor, the one who guided me and taught me how to do this, walked into the coals and just stood on the coals for, I don't know, a minute or something like that. So I don't really know. It's probably a combination of things. I think there's also some power of the mind involved. It can happen on both sides: power of the mind, the ability to walk over the coals, and then the nocebo effect. People get off the coals and they're like, I'm pretty sure I burned myself, and I always tell them, check in the morning. That's just your mind, And the next morning, their feet are clean. And nothing's going on. But yeah, you experience it, and you'll cross over the coals, and then feeling is understanding, right? Like Wim says.
I'm fascinated with this topic of the impact of the mind on the physical. So it seems like it's not just I'm kind of able to bear the pain. It seems like there is a direct impact on the physical layer also, depending on the mindset or on the state you're in. Yes, yeah, it's for me. It seems like there's a big connection also to the fire walking.
Yeah, I mean, and there's levels to that, right? There's levels to the power of the mind and that placebo nocebo effect. I don't want to scare participants like, oh man, you really need to get your mindset right before walking on the coals. Everyone's going to be able to accomplish this. Everyone's going to be able to cross over the coals as long as, you know, we all follow directions and we do what we ought to do. But I think it does begin to help people recognize that ability, the power of the mind, because a lot of people don't even know what the hell you're talking about, Max. They don't even tap into that knowledge that we have out there, that the mind and manifestation and intention have a real deep power with things. So oftentimes going through these rituals and experiencing it for ourselves help us begin to scratch the surface on those ideas, begin to understand, oh man, this is affecting a lot of this and what I push out into the world. So it's another one of those rituals and rites of passages to remind us that we need to approach fear. We also need to trust our bodies. We need to trust our minds and realize that we're infusing intention into everything we do, whether we know it or not.
Yeah, nice. Wow. Yes, I think we kind of need these experiences, you know, these deep transformational experiences to kind of remember what we are, that we are like these spiritual beings, you know, like we are the mind, we are the consciousness, and not so much the physical. And by putting, you know, our skin into the game, you know, I think this is where the reward comes from. Yes.
Yeah, most definitely. It's in a world where we want to understand everything through a medium of, you know, the computer and our mind and like logic and all that. It's so important that we need to go have our whole body experience it, our fears, our heart, our belly. And I guess that's what this whole retreat is all about, right? You know, like like going out there and experiencing all this shit. And we have all these different ways of doing it. The other part about the fire walk that's a lot of fun is we're going to make one of the biggest fires, or probably for a group our size, is two at least huge fires. And that really, we're like moths to the flame. We're attracted to it, and it makes us relax. It makes us want to party. It makes us open up. It has all these kind of therapeutic aspects that we'll be tapping into the whole weekend.
I think for me, what I'm also really looking forward to doing the fire walk is, as I also work with people who have like injuries and chronic diseases, and I experience a lot of people being so trapped in all the things we can't do, all the limitations. So having these different practices, and for me, doing the fire walk is an amazing one, is what we already talked about, how powerful the mind is and how much we can actually expand and break through all of these made of by the mind expectations and limitations. So I love that we're doing this and just like setting everything free.
Yeah, and sometimes you don't even know what your blockages are. You don't even know what you're actual fearful of because you won't admit it to yourself. Oh, I'm not afraid of walking on coals. Then when you walk up to the coals, you're like, oh shit, I'm scared as hell. And that's an important thing to realize, what you're not able to do. Sometimes we do these fear-based practices, like breaking through the barrier stuff. And a few of the participants might not be able to accomplish whatever the said task is. Maybe it's a breaking arrow with your neck, or walking on coals, or walking on glass, or something like that. And I tell people, I'm like, I love when people aren't able to do it, almost, because then they get to really, you know, kind of think about what this blockage is. Why is it so powerful in their life, and why is it stopping them? What is it stopping you from attaining? I mean, walking over the coals is one thing, but your fear is probably preventing you from attaining something else that's more tangible in your life, that's stopping you from growing. So I think all that is a powerful process in removing some of the layers and then seeing what's holding you back.
And if anyone else out there really wants to do that but are scared, then you can come to me and we can like have a little fit, perhaps cry together before walking.
Great. So we will get through it. We will get through it.
We will.
We're always,
Yeah, the only way is through. The only way is through.
yeah, exactly.